Morning. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful day. I got up early today. I usually don't get up before maybe 8 or 9, but this morning I woke up early, so I got up around 7, and I thought this would be a great day to go get some coffee. Although I've got like maybe 5 coffee makers at home, but I don't know. I like to get McDonald's coffee a lot because, I don't like their food, but their coffee's great. And it's 55 cents in Lawrenceburg, so that's a pretty good price for a cup of coffee. I always get the senior coffee since I'm a senior now. Anyway, I'm happy to be a senior. I'm happy that I made it this far. My mother passed away when she was 65, and I'm now 67. And I laugh sometimes about it to myself, how old I thought she was. Bless her. She was precious. She was a great mom. I miss her. She's been gone for 47 years. I didn't get to really know her as an adult. I just knew her when I was, a teenager. And then she passed away when I was I had just turned 20 years old. And at that time I had 2 sons, Eric and Daryl. And when she passed away, they were just babies. So my mother had 11 children, and I was the 11th. And so she has a lot of grandchildren. I'm not sure how many, but when she died, she had seen every one of her grandchildren except for Daniel, which was my last son. And she would have loved Daniel because Daniel was precious. He was a gift from God, just like my other 2 were, but Daniel, he was just special. We all loved him in our family. Eric, when Eric was just a little boy, he would carry Daniel around, and Daniel loved and adored Eric. And so Eric kind of took care of Daniel, and they were really close. And then as years went by, as they grew up and Eric went away and got married and started having a family, it seemed that Daryl and Daniel got closer. And so when Daryl and Daniel became adults, they were still bachelors, so they had a lot in common. So they spent a lot of time together. They even lived together in Florida when Daryl was doing his surgical residency there for 5 years. Daniel went to Florida and got a job. Daniel graduated from the University of Memphis. He had 2 master's degrees. And he was very, very smart. He was so intelligent. But Daniel never cared really about money or material things. He was like that his whole life. When he was just a little boy, I would ask him, Daniel, what do you want for your birthday? Or, Daniel, what do you want for Christmas? And he would always say, whatever you want me to have, Mama. So he really never asked for anything. He never did. The only thing that he asked me to do for him was right before he passed away and he returned back to Thailand. He looked around my house and he said, Mom, if you want me to come back, because he was talking about coming back and living with Doug and I after Daryl died. And he said, Mama, if you want me to live with you, you better get rid of some of this clutter. So he was picking up stuff and showing it to me, and he said, Mom, do you really need this? And I was like, yeah, I need it. And I don't know if you know what the Herald of His Coming is, but it's like a newspaper, but it's a Christian newspaper, and it's really great. We've gotten it for years, and it's very, very, very good. It's full of scriptures and stories and just sermons. It's just great. And I had, I couldn't throw them away, so I had collected quite a few. I had a lot. But I didn't know that Daniel knew I had them. So he says to me, Mom, you must have 10,000 Harold of his coming. And I was like, how do you know that? And he said, you need to get rid of some of this stuff. And he went to in the kitchen, he went and opened a cabinet, and he started pulling out stuff that I had stored in there that I hadn't seen in years, you know what I mean? And so he started pulling that stuff out, and he was like, Mom, do you even need this? And of course, you know, because I saw it again, I was like, yeah. And so he pulled out, I had these little tiny ceramic rabbits that a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, had bought me. And little tiny ceramic rabbits. There was about an inch tall or so. And he said, Mama, do you even know you have these rabbits? And I was like, I really need those rabbits. And so anyway, after this was before Daryl died, when he did the cabinet thing. And he said, Mom, why don't you go through all this stuff and bless somebody with it? And anyway, after he left, I thought, you know, he's right. I had collected all kinds of pots and pans and all kinds of cookie cutters and all kinds of stuff, because I always had this idea that I wanted to be a perfect mother. You know, I wanted to make cookies. I wanted to bake cakes. I wanted to be the perfect mother, you know. And it just never happened. It just never really happened that I did everything I wanted to do or become whatever I wanted to become as a mother, you know. My dream was to be, to get up with them and make homemade breakfast and have cookies and bacon when they come home from school and all that kind of thing. And I just fell short of that always. I never pleased myself in that. And so anyway, after he left, I thought, you know, I'm going to go through some of this. And so I did, and I got like 2 or 3 big, huge boxes of just odd and end pots and pans that I hadn't used, you know, that I probably never would. And I got rid of that, you know. And then I couldn't even tell that it was gone. I mean, I never used it, and, you know, and I couldn't even tell it. It hardly made a dent, you know, in my stuff. So anyway, after he died, I thought about, you know, what he said and everything. And so with a broken heart for him, I went and I gathered up all the Herald of his coming newspapers that I had, and I took them out. I was going to put them in the garbage, and I was like, oh my God, I can't put them in the garbage. I must be like a hoarder or something. I just couldn't hardly part with them. So instead, I just laid them on top of the garbage can, you know, thinking I'll slip them into the garbage can when I get, you know, whatever. And so I left them there overnight, and it rained and stormed that night, apparently, because the next morning when I went out, lo and behold, those Herald of his comings was all over. I mean, they had flown all over. They covered the churchyard, they covered our yard, they covered the next door yard. They were everywhere, and and I laughed because I thought, you know, how funny it was, and Daniel would have got a good laugh out of that. So I just had to go and pick them up, you know, and put them in the garbage can. So I did that, and I thought, he must be laughing at me in heaven, you know. But anyway, when we got ready to move, I mean, I'm like, Daniel, you are right. I have so much stuff. I mean, I can't even get it together. I didn't even think we would ever get out of Memphis because I had so much. And right now, I've got my little house just cram-packed full of boxes and all kinds of things I just couldn't part with. And I can't even hardly walk in there, much less use it. So I'm going to have to go in there now that I'm hopefully going to feel better. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tackle it. I'm going to tackle it head on. I'm going to think about Daniel, and I'm going to do it. But, you know, when my boys were little, they wouldn't do much to help me around the house. I could get Eric to take the garbage out. Even when he was a teenager, he would do that for me. And I really appreciated that. But the other two, they wouldn't do much of nothing. My mother-in-law used to fuss at me and tell me, Shirley, you need to let them boys, you need to teach those boys how to do stuff. But when I would try, it would just wring my nerves so bad that I just thought, what's the point? It's just too much trouble. And so, one day I came home and I heard this god-awful sloshing noise. It was loud. And it led me to my dryer, okay? So I go in there, and it sounds like somebody has put something in the dryer and poured 10 gallons of water in there. So I open up the dryer door, and out falls the soggiest, wettest tennis shoes I ever saw in my life. And the dryer was half full of water. And I'm like, you talking about getting mad? I'm like, oh my God. I'm just kind of picky about my laundry. I don't like to wash my good clothes with my blue jeans and all that. I'm just real picky about that. And I don't like for my clothes to stay in the dryer so that when I go get them out, they're all wrinkled up. Because then I have to rewash them because I sure ain't going to iron them. You know what I mean? I like to iron, but I don't have time for that. Nobody ain't got time for that no more, except for maybe my sister Alice, which she irons all of her clothes. And when we go out, she was like, Shirley, you ain't gonna iron your shirt? And I was like, nope. And so my shirts are wrinkled and hers are all ironed up. Well, anyway, getting back to the dryer, I'm like, who? I was like screaming, who put this? Who put this in the dryer? And so somebody had washed their shoes and just, I guess they didn't wring out, because tennis shoes aren't going to go through the wringer. You know what I mean? And so, they just threw them in there thinking they was going to get dry like that. And so I just screamed bloody murder. I was like, I said, don't you people ever. You people was my family, my boys and my husband. And I was like, they became you people right then. And I said, you people, don't you ever touch the washing machine and the dryer again as long as I live in this house. So that did it for that. They never learned how to wash clothes. Maybe they did after they moved, I hope. Them boys was dumb as a stump probably when they moved. I feel sorry for Talia because probably she had to teach him everything, I imagine. But anyway, so I tried though. I really did, but they almost killed me, I couldn't teach them anything when all I could do would be the referee. They would be fighting and clawing and pinching and biting and practically killing each other all day long from daylight till midnight. I didn't have no time. They wouldn't no calm time when it come time to teach them. One time the encyclopedia man came by to sell, the encyclopedias, and they had this big, nice set of teaching material. It was top. It was something. And it had all these different things with them. It was just beautiful. You could teach somebody how to be a scientist or something with that, So I'm thinking, wow, I could teach these boys how to, do geometry and algebra and all that. Even though I don't know how to do all that, it explained it all in the information and teaching materials. Well, anyway, we didn't have much money. Doug was the only one working, so, I persuaded my husband to buy those encyclopedias plus that extra special teaching material that come along with it. So we got them encyclopedias. Those boys, they really loved them. They drew pictures on the pages. They tore out some of them, and they really enjoyed those encyclopedias. I tried to use that other stuff, and it ended up like under the bed, and pieces of it, they used it for artwork, and they found that some of the disc that was in there made good toys, all that kind of stuff. There was one book that they really liked a lot. It was a storybook. And so, part of my goal in life was to read those boys a bedtime story every night. Well, it didn't happen. So, by the time those boys calmed down enough to go to bed, I was nearly dead. I couldn't read. I couldn't even see straight. So, there were a few times, though, that I read to them a few of the stories in that little storybook. And there was one story that they loved, and they would beg me, especially Eric. He would beg me to read that story. And it was just a beautiful, sweet little story. So, when I got ready to get rid of those encyclopedias, which was years later, somehow or another, we still had that book. And even though the story that they loved, it had been kind of ripped, the page kind of ripped and torn, because we read it a lot. I gave it to Eric. So, he's probably still got that book. But anyway, all that extra special stuff, the teaching supplies and whatever, I finally gave that away to somebody. But it was all marked up and just damaged and whatnot. I don't know if they ever got anything out of it. But we finally did pay for those encyclopedias. Thank God that Daniel was smart enough that he didn't have to have them. Because I think I got rid of them before he got into college or high school or whatever. But Daryl used to get aggravated at Daniel, because Daniel never had to study, and he would make really good grades, but Daryl had to really, really study. So Daryl really pushed himself when he went through med school. He just kept on pushing. And you know what? That boy, he made it. He never read a book when he was growing up. He hated to read. But when he went through med school and all that, the boy had to read night and day. And he did it because he wanted to be a doctor. He wanted to be a surgeon. And he did it. And I thank God that my son became not just a surgeon, but a great surgeon. And I thank God that my 3 boys, they grew up in spite of my inadequacies and my failure to be the perfect mother. They grew up to be the best sons any mother would ever want. So I thank God today. I thank Him. Thank you, God. I do. I don't have them with me right now, but I have them in my heart. They'll always be there. And then God blessed me with 2 little grandsons that were just so precious. I told my grandsons one time, I said, Grandma's had the privilege of raising 2 sets of grandboys and 1 grandman, which was my husband. Because, I was older than him when we got married, so I was a little bit smarter. We were 17. And, I was born in February 1953, and he was born in May 1953. So that, that puts me a little bit, advanced. A little bit advanced. You can still tell it. If you see both of us in a room together and you're talking to us, you can tell that I was born first. I'm pretty sure. Oh, and I don't mean because of the wrinkles. I mean because of the, the smarts. Anyway, I'm about to go in here to Cato's. I told you they had a big old sale going on, but they won't let you try on the clothes. So I took some home, and they didn't fit. So I'm coming back here to see if I can get a smaller size. Thank God. We'll see. We'll just see. And I hope y'all have a great day. And talking about my mother not seeing Daniel, but I'm sure they're pretty well acquainted right now in heaven. I thank God that He's up there with her. I thank God. I do. I thank Him that my boys are there with Him. What better place could they be? If they were with me, it wouldn't be nearly as good for them. They're with God. Thank you, Lord. I love you, Lord. I love all of you too. I hope you enjoy my little rant, my little talk. Love you guys. Bye.